Marley from the Energy Boutique with your energy and ascension forecast for Sunday, December 17th to Saturday, December 23rd. So last week we had that new moon in Sagittarius pop off on the 12th. Definitely a lot of fire energy. We were kind of split, I would say, on the feedback that, of course, many of us need to report upon when such major events take place. The majority of people, I would say, had a little bit of a high mood, a little bit of a high attitude, got downloaded with a new vision, new insight, had a little bit more of a, I'm going to say, perspective on plucking out the silver linings, realizing where it is that we're being challenged, where it is that we're in an experimental phase, and where it is that we have the opportunity right now to overcome some of the limitations, some of the old circumstances. But yet there was equally a majority of people, which I know you can't have two majorities of people, but this really kind of defines where, the evolvement, the awakening is taking place. We had another group of people that were absolutely just exhausted, obliterated, tested, triggered, activated, did not see the positives, did not see the perspectives, did not see anything other than triggers and activations from their past come back to haunt them. Now that's a good indicator on where everybody is at. And of course, only 8 hours later, we had Mercury, ruler of the mental plane, ruler of information, ruler of communication, go retrograde. Now, as I've been talking about, we are in the point of the calendar where we are being tested, where we're being triggered, where we're being activated due to us approaching the solstice energy. Again, little bit of a recap here. This goes back to essentially the summer when Venus went retrograde in the heart and soul of the zodiac in Leo energy. That is when we all had an opportunity for a new life force energy to be downloaded within us, where this new identity needed to come out to play. But it took us up until November 13th with that new moon in Scorpio in order for that new version of self to actually step forward in our physical form, in our physical bodies. Of course, a lot of that was due to eclipse season, between the summer and that new moon in Scorpio, which was absolutely a doozy. Now, on the new moon in Scorpio, we emerged at this new version of self. We've been experimenting with this new version of self ever since, especially as we dove into Sagittarius season, a fire sign. There's a new spark, a new light, if you will, being ignited within us. We are standing in a new truth. We're standing in a new version of self. We're pushing the boundaries. We're discovering, exploring who this actually is, what this means for us, what it is that we're aligned with, what it is that we're no longer aligned with. We still have some processing, some sorting out to do. We, this week, are in the last days of this experimental phase of this Sag energy. That's why we're being tested. The timeline started merging with that new moon in Sag and Mercury going retrograde. The division that we've been feeling, the old timelines are now collapsing. Whatever vibration and frequency signature we are standing in as we go through the solstice gateway, that is what we're working with for this new karmic chapter. So yes, I had been saying and have a lot of evidence from all your guys' feedback that this has been a very challenging week. It is going to continue to be even more challenging as we approach the solstice. So as we're in these last days of Sag season, as we're approaching this solstice energy, first we will actually have the first quarter moon taking place in Pisces energy. How perfect is that? Why, you may ask? Well, because the moon in Pisces is the last zodiac sign. The Pisces energy is where we have to kind of process the good and the bad, the high and the low. We have to pluck out the ability to kind of heal and transform versus where we're being sucked back into old negative situations, circumstances, past patterns, past behaviors. The Pisces energy likes to bring everything full circle before we enter into a new lunar cycle, which of course takes place in the Aries energy. Once the moon moves into Aries energy, we have the new spark, new fire, new flame to actually be cultivating. The first quarter moon in Pisces energy happens right before we move into Capricorn season, which of course is the solstice energy. That solstice energy closes the door, and not gently either. It literally slams the door shut on the karmic chapter that we've been working with and in since Libra season, since the eclipse energies, since this new version of self came out to play. The solstice in its entirety is a resetting of the karmic scale, so to speak, a cleaning of the karmic slate, so to speak, and really putting us in a very different mood, very different attitude moving forward. Now, a lot of the things are going to prevent us from thinking too far into the future, especially Mercury being retrograde. But the interesting part is that we move into Capricorn season, we have the solstice reset, and then Mercury, retrograde in Capricorn energy, and the sun are going to come together right before Mercury slips back into Sagittarius energy. That takes place on the 23rd. And of course, we're building towards the holiday season, Saturnalia's pressures coming out in full force. And of course, not to mention that what comes after this week is the full moon in Cancer taking place on the 26th, which I think is just the funniest astrological aspect that we could ask for, especially taking place around the holiday season, to have a full moon in Cancer. Look out for the family, for the dysfunction, for the generational trauma coming out to play around the holidays. So we will cover more of that next week. But this week we have a lot of pressurized systems really coming out to play to have us triggered and activated to stay in the lower vibrations, the lower frequencies, in order for that solstice to lock in the lower timelines that many of us will unconsciously or consciously be aware of that we're choosing due to the dark force energies trying to paralyze us and not have us evolve. This is why every single person that I've spoken to over the course of this past week has said, oh, you warned us that this week was going to be, tough, and it was going to be a series of tests and lots of triggers and activations, and you weren't joking. I do not joke about this stuff, my friends. Okay, when I say that this is literally the toughest week of the year, this is happening. And we started this last week because the approach to the solstice already got triggered and activated. That karmic shake-up and wake-up got activated under that new moon in Sag with the following of Mercury going retrograde. That is why it feels like nothing has changed in our physical realms, but it's very surreal. We'll talk about that in the Ascension symptoms part of the thing, but timelines are merging. Some timelines we can't go back to. This is the 3D essentially collapsing more and more and more so that we can't return to it. To say that this is the final point of completion would be an understatement and a lie, because we still have a whole year to go, 2024, where Pluto's going to be at the critical crisis degree at the 29th degree of Capricorn energy that we've been trying to collapse since 2008. So the timeline merging is just kind of whittling away, defragging, if you will, a lot of the constructs, a lot of the dynamics that essentially are and have been falling apart, that need to come to a certain death, if you will, in order for us to truly understand what we will not be working with moving forward. So there is a little bit of a pressurized system here. Of course, Mercury retrogrades are never fun, especially in Capricorn energy. But nonetheless, this is why everybody feels exhausted and triggered and activated and like we're being punished, so to speak, by the cosmos, which of course we're not. It's just that if you hold any kind of amount of power and can really contribute to the overall collective awakening, you're going to have those dark force entities come at you from every which way. So before we jump into ranting and raving and the Ascension symptoms for this week, first of all, I just want to take this moment to thank you. I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for liking, for sharing, for commenting, for dropping emojis in the comment section and making my page just a beautiful space to actually scroll through. I want to thank you for your continued love. Thank you for your continued support. I want to thank those of you that have jumped over to Patreon, kind of previewed, tested out what it would be like to be a Patreon member, although I'm not giving a very good example in the previous weeks because I've really kind of slept on providing the kind of content that I want to provide for my Patreon subscribers. I have a whole series of new things coming out in the new year, but this month, December, where I have way too much on my plate, I have definitely dropped the ball on my Patreon subscribers, and for that I am super sorry, but also appreciate y'all so much because you all just hold the space that I need to have in order to get my mind right once again. So thank you so much for that. I also just want to take this moment to kind of put out there that I did launch my 2024 calendar. I did open it up until April, which is a little bit nerve-wracking for me. Normally I do everything just on a month-to-month basis because I have commitment issues, and it just makes me sick to my stomach to think that I've committed to certain things and certain people and certain projects and certain ideas for, the next 3 to 4 months. That really is testing my comfortability and my boundaries, but nonetheless, I did it. So I just will also say that I launched this new type of scheduling system. Of course, new clients are now being put on a wait list. I apologize, but it just had to happen. And while my existing clients have VIP pricing, they have VIP spots. But I did launch this on the exact same day that Mercury went retrograde. So hopefully, fingers crossed, I won't run into too many technical issues, especially with the redemption of a lot of the gift certificates and gift cards that y'all were just so graciously enough to purchase. So I really do just hope, again, fingers crossed, that all goes well there. But if you are trying to book a session with me and run into technical issues, please reach out. Have just a little bit of understanding that Mercury retrograde is definitely not the right time to be implementing technology, but you know what? A girl's got to do what a girl's got to do. So that schedule is out there for my existing clients and anyone who had purchased a gift card. Go in, stag yourself a spot, because I don't anticipate that the spots that are available are going to last for very long, because y'all are so awesome. Y'all are so great, and I appreciate y'all so much. Okay, so with that being said, let's jump into some rants and raves. So yes, this is a very difficult time in the calendar, in just the Great Awakening, if you will. We are coming upon the solstice, which to me is the most pivotal point that we've been working towards. And yes, I know I already talked about the solstice, but a reason of why this particular energy is so heavy, so thick, and so I'm going to say negative, is because we're moving into a time where Saturn worship was alive and well. For those of you that don't know, our Christmas holidays evolved from what is called Saturnalia. Now, I did a whole forecast, a whole podcast on this last year for my Patreons. Probably end up talking about it again, just in a lesser capacity this year around. But basically, our whole world has been constructed under this matrix that I know you've probably heard of in this Great Awakening. But a lot of people don't understand that it all starts with Saturn. Saturn is Chronos. He's Father Time. Saturn is the tough love life lesson giver. He really puts us in a situation to grind our gears and to really test us in ways that many of us think are punishment, that technically aren't. It is for our best interest to see whether or not we have that warrior type of spirit to rise up and rise above some of the situations, circumstances, and challenges in which he throws our way. But Saturnalia was the original holiday for this particular time and season. And it had a lot to do, many people are going to say, oh, it's a pagan holiday. Oh, it's this. Oh, it's Satanism. It's blah, 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 blah. Okay, we're not getting into that. There's nothing here other than a belief system. You have people that want to believe in a fairy tale that is happy-go-lucky of Mr. Santa Claus, of baby Jesus being born in a manger, all of that kind of crap, which it is merely a belief system. Okay, so if you're choosing that belief system, then happy holidays to you. But realistically speaking, everything that we celebrate here on this earth plane has derived from some sort of worship to not so good festivities, to not so good concepts, let's say. These are all energy harvesting events. Saturnalia was a lot of fraternizing in the streets, a lot of sexuality, a lot of gluttony, really digging into those 7 deadly sins, so to speak. And we are upon the time where, yes, there are happy-go-lucky people out in the world who just love this holiday season. That's great for them. They're in a great mood. They're in a great ability to not see what is happening into the world. Some may say, oh, well, it's just people trying to make the best out of not so good situations. It really doesn't matter. I don't care what it is that you do to celebrate this particular time and season. I think that the important key factor of what we all need to be realizing at this point in the awakening game is information, truth. Where do some of our, let's call it traditions and celebrations, where do they actually stem from? Okay, so to understand that our holiday season, which is just a capitalistic event anyways, it creates a lot of depression in people, a lot of loneliness in people, creates a lot of situations where people are overindulging, not only in food, but in alcohol as well. And again, the 7 deadly sins are out to play. Saturn, Kronos, Father Time, he is used to being worshipped. Saturn rules over Capricorn energy. We're in Capricorn season. Saturn is the lord of karma. That's why the solstice, the winter solstice in particular in Capricorn season, is a karmic reset of sorts. This is why the holiday season is very challenging. This is why we are seeing I'm going to say, lower vibration, a lower frequency take place over the collective due to the external events that have us conditioned to believe that we should all be looking forward to spending time with family. Spending our last dollars and going into debt in order to provide a materialistic item that will probably get thrown in the trash or in the back of the closet just days after it is given to the person. We are under such intense societal pressures and really challenging the norms around this particular point in the calendar that this is all divinely scripted in order to harness as much energy from us human beings, because we're just batteries for the greater grander, let's call them, I don't even know what I want to call them, because these beings that have created us, that need us to do their dirty work here on this earth plane, that siphon the energy off of us, they are getting a double dose around the holiday season, around the solstice. Doesn't matter what you believe in, doesn't matter what you celebrate, doesn't matter the mood, the attitude that you're in. Everybody is having an emotional charge at some point. There is chaos, there is craziness, there is conditioning, just generational trauma coming out to play around this particular time and season. And this is why many people find it so freaking challenging. Now, that being said, if you have an awareness of what's going on, then you already beat the game. Let me just remind you, the goal is not to escape the matrix, because you can't, okay? You can't. You cannot escape the matrix. All you can do is move into observer mode. The minute that you move into observer mode is the minute that you already won the game. Now you're just going through the motions of what this matrix construct needs from you until you pass over back into energy, back into spirit, in which case you'll be not walking towards the light because you know that that's just a trap, and you will not find yourself, I'm kind of saying, incarnated in a disempowerment situation once again, in order for you to come into this lifetime and spend an eternity in this lifetime trying to remember the truth, trying to remember who it is that you actually are. So this is why this particular point in time is super, super testing, super trying. We also, have this extra layer where the new version of self that came out to play under that new moon in Scorpio, we've been experimenting with it. And Mercury going retrograde is bringing the past back into the present moment. Not because we need to go back to it, but to test us to see whether or not we are going to go back to the vibration, to the frequency that we fought so hard to get away from, that we fought so hard to grow out of. And so we have all of these elements really coming at us at this particular time, pressurizing us from every situation and circumstance. They want to get us all emotionally riled up one way or another. Doesn't matter if it's excitement or anger. It's still an emotion. It's still an energy. They want us to be in a negative thought pattern, a negative inner dialogue. Whether we allow that to happen is up to us. If you are still allowing your external realm to really dictate and have power and control over your emotions, over your day, over your thoughts, over your narrative, then you have not locked into observer mode. When you're in observer mode, you see things happening. You're like, oh, look at this guy coming to trigger and activate me. Look at this dark force entity trying to get me to be upset at something that I see the greater, grander picture of. Here's the thing. We're all about to spend some time with family members, okay? I don't care how enlightened you are. Don't care how evolved you are. I don't care how long you've been in the observer type of mentality. Hanging out with family members are going to test and trigger you. That's why I think it's hilarious that we're having a full moon in Cancer energy on the 26th. Like, that to me is astrology humor. Here's the thing. There is a certain point in our physical bodies where we do have to be triggered and activated in order to realize what emotions we're still harboring within us, what thought patterns we're still holding on to that have a direct impact on how it is that we're thinking and feeling. If you aren't triggered and activated, then guess what? You're either delusional or you've actually risen above these triggers and activations. When you know the game, you can't be played, right? So for many of us, it's going to be an interesting dynamic to hold on, to anchor into this observer mentality, see these triggers and activations coming at us, choosing to duck and hide and go around them and not let them kind of affect our mental state or our emotional state. But we're also going to have many moments where it's like, woo, okay, no, you almost caught me there. You almost had me. Going back to who I was 5 years ago, where I would flip tables and shove this turkey down your throat, right? Hopefully, many of us will not find ourselves in those situations, but just know that this energy is coming at us. It's coming at us in a fierce way. I do have 2024 predictions, forecasts, and guides coming at you towards the end of the month here. But let me just say, 2024 is a major year of change, of transformation. Now, what does that mean? It means endings, death. It means beginnings. It means initiating something new. It means the adjustment period that nobody is ever comfortable with. It is an accumulation of all the work that you have done or have not done coming into manifestation in the year of 2024. There is a reason why 2023, the year of 7, was meant for us to be focusing in on the relationship that we have within ourselves. If you do not know yourself, if you are not anchored into your power, into your energy, 2024 is going to chew you up and spit you out and then chew you up again and then spit you out again. Now, even for us who have been doing the work, there are going to be tests and challenges. May I remind you, we have Pluto at the 29th degree of Capricorn energy for the majority of 2024. That is no joke. That is nothing to mess around about. So we are essentially being set up this week as we enter into that solstice energy. We are being set up to see how strong we are within ourselves, how well we know ourselves, how much of the observer we're actually able to anchor into. This is a test. And it is going to suck. It is not going to be fun. It is not going to feel good, but it is absolutely necessary in order for us to graduate to the next class, to the next level, to the next school, or realize where it is that, guess what? Some of us are going to have to take up summer school. We're going to have to repeat some lessons again. We're going to have to really learn, yet the hard way, where it is that we failed ourselves the first time around. So, of course, there will be a little bit more of an in-depth, in detail, extended version of what 2024 has to offer. But just understand that this week is setting the tone for who it is that we are going to be and what it is that we're going to be experiencing through the year of 2024. All of that is being determined as we approach the solstice. So keep your mind about you, keep your emotions about you, stand in your power, stand in your strength, and laugh when you see the triggers, the activation, those dark force energies coming at you. So yes, not going to feel good. So this is exhausting, right? It's exhausting to anchor in a new version of self. It's also exhausting to have the past come back and haunt you. It's also exhausting to feel like you're being punished by the cosmos. Again, nothing is happening to you. Everything is happening for you. It's literally a perspective. You have the choice on the perspective in which you'd like to have. Of course, things happening to you is a victimhood mentality. Things happening for you is a warrior type of mentality. So again, you're being asked with these challenges, with these triggers, with these activations, who do you want to be? Because we have the ability to be whoever it is that we want to be. It all comes down to choice. Now, we're going to be feeling a lot of stiffness, a lot of rigidity in our physical bodies, maybe some aches and pains in our bones as well, especially once we jump into Capricorn season, but mostly because we're pretty tense. We're waiting for the ball to drop. We're waiting for something to jump out of the closet and scare us. We're waiting for this attack, for the next thing to happen. We're waiting for it. So what happens when we're waiting for it? Well, our physical body is in fight or flight mode, so that's never good. Even more than that, our mental plane, Mercury, being retrograde in Capricorn energy, again, the boss, the general foreman, the great manifester of the zodiac, if you're waiting for the ball to drop, you will be manifesting situations where the ball is dropping. If you are waiting for the next attack, the next, element where shit hits the fan, you will be attacked. That shit will hit the fan. So how does one get over that? How are we living in a physical realm where we do have to anticipate, some dangers, some triggers, some activations where we feel like the only thing that we can do to be in control when we feel out of control is to think about all the possible variables and be prepared for shit hit the fan and for the world to end long before it ever does. How do we do that without manifesting situations and scenarios out of that? And the answer here is balance. Balance between knowing that our physical bodies do this certain thing because we're in protective mode, like our body has a certain amount of programming to survive. That's all we're meant to do in our physical programming is to survive this matrix, survive this game, survive this lifetime at all costs. That's why many of us are in a heightened state of awareness all the time. That's why our circadian rhythms are absolutely shot. That's why we're filled with toxins, filled with poisons all the freaking time, because we're living in a matrix that is designed to kill us, to see if the programming of our physical forms can override that and basically survive. But our higher self, our soul selves, they know better. They know that this game is just an illusion. They know that it doesn't matter whether we live or die in this simulation or not. We're still going to end up as energy, as a source on the other side in spirit. The higher self knows that there is no point to winning or losing this game. The only point in this physical realm is to give life meaning, because life is meaningless. And I don't mean that in a negative sense. I mean that we are gifted an opportunity to choose how we see life, to choose how we deal with life, to choose the inner dialogue, the narrative, the emotions, whatever the case may be. We only give things in our lives meaning because they mean something to us. Whether that is a good meaning or a bad meaning, that's up to you. What means something very great to me, someone else may not find meaning in at all. And so the balance that we need to strike here is recognizing that this physical game, this physical simulation, and the egoic programming that is attached to our physical bodies, all it needs to do is survive. So yeah, it would be a good thing to have, if we were talking about cavemen shit, we're not going to sit around knowing that there's a dinosaur outside of our cave. If you believe in that particular timeline and dialogue, I know I'm opening up a lot of cans of worms by saying that statement as well. But if you believe in that, you wouldn't sit around as a caveman knowing that there are dinosaurs outside your cave without some kind of weapon, without some kind of path and plan that if a dinosaur stuck its, imaginary head into your cave, that you wouldn't have a plan on how you're going to protect yourself, protect your family. Of course, we have to anticipate that there are dangers in this physical earth plane. But what we also have to do is not focus so much on it, not spend our time, our energy, our attention so deeply on it that we forget that this is just a game. When you are holding fear of what could happen, you are more in your body than you are in your higher self. When you are constantly thinking of the highs, the lows, the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, the variables of all the situations that your physical body is in, you are now not even incorporating the higher self that knows that it doesn't matter whatever you're going to be faced with, you are going to make the best decision for yourself, right? We are equipped to deal with whatever it is that is thrown at us. That's what our higher self has designed for us. If you are meant to get eaten by a dinosaur, you will get eaten by a dinosaur. It doesn't matter how much planning, how much strategy, how many weapons you have. If that is your soul contract, that is how you are going to go. So to a certain extent, it is a waste of time for us to sit around in this physical body with this physical intellect and think about the different variables and the pros and cons and what I would do if this happened and what I should do if this happens. Because realistically speaking, if you were trusting your higher self, knowing that you were well equipped, well informed, and that you could handle anything that was thrown at you, and if you couldn't, then it was your time to go, then you would release a lot of fear, a lot of stress, a lot of rigidity, not only in your body, but in your way of thinking. So this is what we're being illuminated with right now, is the choice point. Are you going to anchor more into this physical simulation, into this physical perspective, into this physical programming, or are you constantly going to be checking yourself with knowing damn well that you divinely scripted this specific experience for your growth, for your evolvement, and that there's nothing to fear, right? So again, a lot of people, especially the newly awakened, they have a hard time really understanding that they have to abandon the physical body, the physical mind, the physical emotions for the higher self. There's no point in thinking about how it is that you can gain control in your physical realm if your higher self knows that nobody has control over anything. So what's the point of spending that much time, that much energy trying to convince yourself of a falsity, of a delusion of control, when your higher self knows that nobody has control over anything, right? So anyways, this is where we're at, and the two versions of self, let's call it the lower self, which is attached to the physical, and the higher self that is attached to the metaphysical. Meta meaning outside of the physical. So anything that cannot be explained, that is not tangible, that cannot be kind of seen with the naked eye, that is a metaphysical experience. And so when we align with our soul space, with our higher selves, we are choosing the metaphysical self, the higher self, over the physical self, the mental plane, the emotional body programming. And so we're going to see this split. Yes, the timeline split has already been very evident within us, and those timelines are merging. But with that merging, we have to choose one part of self over the other to lead us into this next chapter. And that's why we're going to feel torn apart, why we're going to feel pushed and pulled, why there is this surreal, euphoric snow globe effect happening. Many of us walking very firmly in our physical bodies in this physical realm, but feels like we're essentially just being picked up and shaken like a snow globe. There's no rhyme or reason for it other than the fact that there are things going on in the other realms, in the other dimensions that you may not be able to see or even understand at this point, that are having us choose one version of self over the other. And having that merging point is going to essentially form a brand new identity for us to be moving in and with in this next karmic chapter. So the stiffness, the rigidity in the body, that's because we're holding tension, we're holding fear, we're holding uncertainty in our physical body because we're allowing our physical intellect, our physical emotions, the physical programming to have more power over the higher self than technically needs to be at this point in the game. So this is a good time to understand why it is that you're feeling weird in your body. Nothing has really changed in your physical realm. Nothing has really changed in your physical body, but everything feels weird as F. You're looking at yourself in your mirror and you're like, did I always have a mole there? Or is this some kind of Mandela effect? Did I always kind of, have this asymmetrical look to my shape of my face, or is my eyes going bad on me? These are all just new awarenesses. And especially as we merge into this new timeline, into this new karmic chapter, we're going to be seeing ourselves differently because we are different. With that being said, though, there is I'm going to say a little bit of a manic depressive state that will likely emerge. And I please, if you're into mental health, please don't come at me and say, oh, you're trying to make light of serious mental health issues, blah, 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 blah. I know, I get it. Okay. I understand where you're coming from, but all mental health issues are a physical manifestation of an energetic imbalance. And so when I'm talking about manic depressive, of course, I'm not speaking from a clinical point of view because I don't give that much time, energy, and power to my physical body, to this physical realm. But what I'm saying is that the energy fluctuations that we will be experiencing throughout the course of this week are going to mirror back what some would call a manic depressive episode. What does that mean? Well, especially while we're still in this Sag energy, we're manic. Everything is good. Everything is fine. Big dreams, big ideas. We can accomplish anything. We can be whatever it is that we want to be. We can create whatever it is that we want to create. That is a great situation to be in, especially seeing how, the physical realm, physical reality is pretty bleak right now. It is not a bad thing to sometimes give yourself permission to just be manic and just be like semi-delusional, knowing damn well that you're creating a shitstorm of disappointment for yourself when you come down off of that high. And that high is going to come to an abrupt end when we move into that Capricorn energy and we get slapped down out of the skies in which we've been flying around in all the way back down to earth. And it's going to anchor in and it's going to hurt. It's going to feel like we jumped out of a plane without a parachute. Okay, that's where the depressive episode comes in. This negative Nancy, Debbie Downer type of situation. Why? Because it's Saturn season, baby. Saturnalia at its finest. Let's make everybody just beat themselves down into a state of unworthiness, because that is what feeds the Saturnalia gods, if you will. And so there is this whole situation where we're flying high and we're just, just pushing the boundaries of what it is that we actually want to do, what we actually want to accomplish, what we actually believe in that Sag energy, and then splat down on the earth we go in Capricorn season. Again, solstice energy, it locks it in. We've been flying high. We haven't even technically been too attached to our bodies because we've been stirring around in all the other realms of possibilities. And then we get bitch slapped out of our little dream, out of our imaginary little floaty land space that we're experimenting with in Sag energy. And we have to come back down to earth. We have to come back down to reality. And that is never fun. So yeah, ride that manic wave for as long as it's going to last. Because if you actually deal with these types of mental health issues, you would know that you do whatever it is that you can do. You get shit done when you're manic, because when that depressive state kicks in, you probably aren't moving off the couch or even showering for a couple of days. And that's real talk. So, yeah, we're going to have quite a time there. And especially with the added pressure of the holiday season, it's amplifying where it is that we feel like we should be doing things. Let me just plant this seed in your mind. How many times a day do you say, I should be doing something. I should do the laundry, should do the dishes. I should go out grocery shopping. I don't want to go to that little festive event this weekend, but I should go. Every time you say should, it is an expectation that you think other people have of you instead of what you actually want to do yourself. I'm gonna let you sit with that. Every single time you say should, that's not you saying I want to. That's not saying I need to. That's not saying I desire to. That's saying, there's an expectation of me that somebody put on me that makes me feel like I should be doing something other than the things that I want to do. And the should is very loud at this particular time of year. So let me just say this. One thing that you need to learn very, very quickly in this awakening stage is to do what makes you happy first and foremost, which means that you should start by eliminating that word should. If you are invited to a festive event and you're really not feeling it and you don't want to go, but you should go, you should make an appearance, you should show up, you should just go and try to have a good time. That is you saying that other people's wants, needs, desires, and expectations of me are more important than what I need to be doing for myself, which you shouldn't be doing. Listen, if we're moving into 2024, technically we only have 1 year left. What do I mean by that? Well, the new world starts in 2025. And this is why 2024 is going to be an absolute shitstorm of transformation, because we have to collapse the things that are no longer going to survive in the new world, and we have to be done with it. We have to be done crying over it by the time we move into 2025. And we're running out of time, in case you haven't noticed. And this is why I'm deeming myself personally in my own particular adventures in 2024. 2024 is a year where I'm stepping back and I'm no longer hand-holding. And I know many of my clients already know this because I've changed my services. I've changed my ability to connect. I've changed my ability to counsel, to provide guidance, because the hand-holding phase needs to be over. If you're not able to stand on your own 2 feet to a certain extent moving through 2024, then honestly, you're going to have a hard time. Personally, I know a lot of energy workers out of there, a lot of healers have just kind of reached their line in the sand where they recognize that the energy being depleted out of us as healers, as energy workers, is no longer worth the little tiny bit amount of effort that we're getting out of other people that for some reason cannot stand on their own 2 feet. And so as we move through 2024, yes, we're going to be challenged, but we're going to be challenged to stand in our own freaking power. You shouldn't need external validation. You shouldn't need these external prompts. You shouldn't need external pressure on you. You need to be doing what makes you happy, what makes you feel the most like yourself. So if you're invited to all of these festivities where you should make an appearance, where you should stop by, where you should at least go and try to have fun, I'm going to tell you right now, don't go. Okay? We cannot be moving into 2024 saying yes to things that we want to say no to, and vice versa, right? If you're automatic, if somebody's coming at you and you know they're about to ask you a question and it doesn't even matter what they're asking, you already know you don't want to have any part of it, don't smile. Don't nod your head yes. Don't tell them yes. Stop committing to things that take you out of your own power. Stop putting yourself in a secondary position. Stop putting yourself in situations and circumstances that your heart, your soul, your higher self has no desire to be in. Those are situations that we do not need to have anything to do with. And I know there's going to be some people out there that still continue to do shit. I'm going to be doing it for holiday season. My parents are so locked into the old traditions, the old belief. Oh, and side note, just because you're an enlightened being doesn't mean that your family is. That's why I say, very interesting dynamic, full moon in Cancer taking place around the holidays. It's absolutely laughable. Anywho, we're all in situations to a certain degree where we do things that we quote unquote should do that we may not want to do, that we end up doing. So in my situation, I don't really want to go to my mother's house and do Christmas and open gifts and play the fake facade. I don't want to cook meals. I don't want to have people here. I don't want to do any of that. But also, when I sit back and I understand the human experience that they're having, it is hurtful for me, knowing what I know, to know that I could make them happy and I'm choosing not to. So at this point in time, it kind of boils down to, okay, I don't really want to do these things. I know I should do them. But when it comes down to, do I have the opportunity to make myself happy by making other people that I love happy? If the answer is yes, then that should is no longer a should. It's a I'm going to do it. You know what I mean? So of course, there's a lot to think about. There's a lot to process. But you definitely, if it's not giving you anything, like if you're not getting anything in return, if I was just doing all the things that I don't want to do to make other people happy and it wasn't making me happy to make them happy, then I wouldn't do it. But I'm definitely getting something out of it. I know that, you know, the years that my parents have left on this earth plane in physical form, I know that that means something to them. Doesn't mean anything to me. They could drop dead tomorrow and I'd be okay because I can still talk to them. I know that not everybody has that gift, but I do. And so I'm not going to say it wouldn't hurt to not have them here in physical form, but you have to put in perspective. You can't show up to every fight that you're invited to, but you do have to choose your battles wisely. And for a lot of people, I know, you know, holiday seasons, parties at work with coworkers, most of y'all don't even like the people that you work with on a daily basis anyways. Why do you want to go break bread and celebrate with them? You know, it just makes no sense to me. But again, it all comes down to personal opinion, personal wants, needs, and desires. But I would really, really challenge you to take a good look at how many times you do things in the run of the day because you should do them instead of actually wanting, needing, or desiring to do them. That's the point in which I'm trying to make. Anywho, I digress. Let's go back to the physical symptoms that we can experience here. Let's talk about the heart activations, because again, coming into the holiday season, there's a lot of heart activations taking place. let me just say that the higher ups, they don't care whether you're having a happy heart or a hurt heart. Any type of emotion is still food to them. Any type of emotion is still an energy source to them. But of course, we would prefer to not be sad. We would prefer to not be heartbroken, not struck with grief. But again, the time in the season in which we're in, there's a lot of energy coming up for processing. Again, with Mercury retrograde, we have a double doozy happening here. And especially as we approach the solstice, that is going to be the most triggering energy that we are sitting in the days that we are waiting for that solstice energy to come. Now, I will likely be doing another rant on my Patreon as far as the solstice goes and how that translates into the sun, and the sun being crucified on the axis of longitude and latitude of the sun reaching the lowest point. And of course, the sun is our life force energy, and how that translates using astrotheology into, God the sun, or Jesus the sun, and his birthday being on the 25th, which is just an absolute amount of crapola. I'll probably be going into depth there, but let me just point this out. When the sun, our life force energy, is at the lowest point that it could possibly reach in its journey throughout the sky, which happens on the solstice, the 21st, that is why we are at the lowest point that we are feeling and thinking and being. Because the sun, unless we're gaining strength from the sun, we're not feeling strong. The sun gets hooked up on that crucifying axis of longitude and latitude on the 21st, and it doesn't move until the 25th. It starts moving again on the 25th, and that's why they say that Jesus was born on the 25th, because the sun has basically risen. And so, there's a whole lot of correlation there, but this is why we're in the darkest parts of our experiences around the solstice. This is why it's so challenging, because the sun is at the lowest point that it could possibly reach. And when the sun ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. Speaking of not being happy, how's your sleep state? I know that the dreams have definitely taken a turn, I would say. Our dream states, our dreamscapes are definitely more intensified, definitely a little bit more cryptic, have a lot of hints and clues being thrown at us at this time. But the sleep state hasn't really changed much for myself. Now, I'm hoping that it's not just me, but I'm still doing like 2 hours of sleep, up for an hour. Another 2 to 3 hours sleep, up for an hour, 2 to 3 hours sleep, back and forth and back and forth. What I will say is that the time that I am asleep is a lot deeper than it has been in previous months. And I go right into, some very, very interesting situations in the astral realm, but then I'm still waking up at that 2.5 hour, 3 hour mark, and then taking a little bit of breather, taking a little bit of a rest, and then going right back to it. So we can expect our sleep state, our dream state, to continue to intensify, especially as our unconscious selves start sorting through and processing the highs, the lows, and everything in between of some of the triggers and activations that are coming at us in our waking state and in our dream state as well. Let me say this, you could be doing really, really good in your waking state to override these negative narratives and override these negative emotions and act as the observer. Do you have as much control over your sleep state? Because I know that if I wake up from a quote unquote dream that is night terror-ish, that shit stays with me all day. That puts me in a mood and an attitude that I just cannot shake no matter how hard I try. And so let me just also say, if they can't get you while you're awake, they will get you while you're asleep. There's only so much that you can do, but we do have to continue to tap into that warrior mood and attitude and give them our best go. If we stand a chance in hell of getting humanity of where it is that we need to be by April of 2024, in order for the major timeline shift, the major upgrade, the major awakening to happen in the fall of 2024. There are certain points where the energy needs to be accumulated to a certain density, a certain potency, in order for certain timelines that right now are still up in the air to actually be an option for us. So we have to hit certain milestones, certain markers, and right now we're being tested, being set up for events that are going to be popping off in April. And of course, what happens in April will dictate what will happen in the fall of 2024. And we have a huge potential timeline jump, huge potential awakening point in 2024 that we may hit it. At this point, I'm still reserving a little bit of, I don't even know what the word is, but I'm a little bit reserved on whether or not we can actually get ourselves there by April or not. And we may miss it altogether. And that would be a really unfortunate thing. So we definitely need to do the work. And if you're wondering how you can make sure that we are aligning to the highest timelines available to us, and that we will be in alignment with those particular activation points, start doing the work within yourself. You have to be living in a real, raw, authentic vibration in order for you to kind of be contributing to the overall collective's energy. And so again, it is going to be a trying time. This is a test to see whether or not you can walk the walk, talk the talk, and integrate all of the wisdom, all of the knowledge that you have accumulated thus far. So it's going to have a lot of pressure on our heads. You know, we feel like space cadets. We feel like we're staring at walls for hours. We feel like we have multiple tabs open in our brains, but we haven't been able to even look at the screen. Everything is blurry. We're like space cadets thinking about other things. But if you ask us what we're thinking about, we don't know. We know that there's lots going on in our higher selves than there are going on in our physical bodies. That much I will say. But this has a major impact on our headspace, of course, our narrative as well. But physically speaking, I want you to pay attention to where your hair hurts. Our hair is going to hurt so freaking badly. For those of you that sport ponytails, you may need to take that ponytail out this week. For those of you that have a certain hairstyle, you may be going to the opposite grain of that hairstyle just because your hair hurts. Our crowns are going under a huge activation point this week. And so that energy at the top of our crown, we're going to have headaches. We're going to have situations where our hair hurts. We're going to have a buildup of earwax in our ears. We're going to have clicking, downloading in our ears. We're going to have red patches appear, maybe even on our face, but in other areas of our bodies as well. We are going to have an overwhelming, let's call it, situation of discontentment, especially where the bobblehead syndrome from our shoulders up goes. A lot of this, really, we can take it down to the heart chakra. Our throats, although our throats are not sore, they're not itchy, they do feel swollen. Feels like there's glands swollen. Let me just remind you that the lymphatic system, which is responsible for removing the toxins out of our physical body, it's pretty stagnant as of late. Okay, so we're having a hard time moving the, let's call it, lower vibrations and frequencies of our emotions and of our thoughts out of our realm of focus, and therefore that manifests in a slow moving lymphatic system. Our nodes, you know, in your groin, in your throat, under your armpits, they're going to feel enlarged. We don't have a virus. We don't have a sore throat. There's no need of it, but it does feel like our throats are kind of narrowed, like they're kind of swollen. And a lot of this is because, again, we are going through this recalibration. We are kind of arguing, whether you're aware of it or not, on who is going to lead the charge moving into this next karmic chapter. The red patches on the skin that I mentioned, this is more than just like dry skin. This is more than just eczema. This is more than just a rash. It's just these weird red patches. They can be big, they can be little, they can be in a spot that is explainable, they can be in spots that are unexplainable. Those are hot channels. That is where there is a blockage in your energy, in your meridians. Pay attention to where they're kind of erupting, if you will, on your skin and on your body. I want you to pay special attention, though, to the lower extremities. So again, sciatica, tight hips, clicking, popping in the hips, feeling a lot of pelvic pressure, either from your bowels, from your bladder, from other parts of that particular arena. We're having a lot of cramping, a lot of tremors, a lot of instability in our legs. A lot of that is because we are just, many of us, scared to death of what's coming at us in 2024. That's just being real. Okay, there is an energy out there, an anticipatory energy of what 2024 has in store for us, and it's creating a lot of fear, a lot of rigidity, a lot of stagnation in our lower extremities. And so pop it out, dance, move, jitter your legs, go for a walk. You can't just let these energy blockages keep you in a state of paralysis. That's not how this goes. Wherever you're feeling discomfort, lean all the way into it. You don't want to do things that ease the discomfort. You want to put it to a different pressurized point so that it kind of breaks up the particular discomfort in which is first manifesting. We're going to have a major impact on our digestive system as well. And again, may I just remind you that if you're putting alcohol in your body at this stage of the awakening, got to tell you, you're going to have a hard time. You should not be drinking alcohol under any circumstances ever, not even a sip. Why would you voluntarily open the door to dark force entities being able to take over your body at a time when our warrior spirits need to be at our prime? Makes no sense to me. But again, the societal conditioning of happy holidays, have a drink, have lots of food, shove your body filled with alcohol and sugar. Let's just absolutely fry out your central nervous system and make you jump in to this new karmic chapter at the lowest vibration and frequency, the lowest health possible. This is all divinely scripted for our failure. Please, please, please do not be drinking alcohol at this time. Do not be stuffing your face filled with sugary little foods. Do not be eating processed foods. I know it's hard to resist, but again, this comes down to willpower. How strong are you? How strong are you to fight your urges that the physical body has? Do you think your higher self gets anything out of that drink? No. Do you think your higher self gets anything out of those dozen holiday squares that you're about to shove in your face? No. That's the physical body. If you continue to give in to the physical body's temptation, then you are allowing the physical body's agenda to have more power and control over you than your higher self. If you are going to drink, which I know some of you are, if you are going to overindulge in sugary sweets, which I know some of you are, if you are going to indulge in these festive activities with poor and weak ass energy boundaries, which I know some of you are, you are going to have a horrible start to 2024. That's just a choice. So make the choice within yourself of how it is that you want to actually jump into this new karmic chapter, and then follow through it with the appropriate actions. The reason why I brought that up is because our digestive systems are going through something fierce. And if you add all of the things that I rattled off to your digestive system, you are just creating an absolute shit show. You are going to really have to cleanse and detox your body long before you can actually gain any kind of momentum in the work and in the growth and the involvement that you have the opportunity to do very early on in 2024. You are going to be kind of pressing pause, if you will, on your opportunities moving into the new karmic chapter. And so even if you are very diligent, there's no alcohol, there's no sugar, there's no processed foods, you're still going to have digestive upset. But it's not going to affect you. It's not going to hold you back. It's not going to cloud your judgment. It's not going to put you in a situation to cleanse and detox before you can get this new party started. But nonetheless, pay attention to your digestive system because, of course, it responds to your central nervous system. Your central nervous system is the energy, is the electricity coming in from the cosmos. And so we have to make sure that we are stable within ourselves, because again, if you have an overstimulated central nervous system, then you can't keep a grip on your emotions or on your thoughts or on your narratives, let alone your actions. And therefore, we have to make sure that we're making the best choices that we could possibly make to set our futuristic selves up for success. And that means that there is a short-term sacrifice in this present moment, in this here and now, in order for our future selves to have a better chance of evolving, of growing, of healing, of jumping into the new opportunities that will start unfolding for us very early on in this new karmic chapter. So the burning lips come with that as well. The dry eyes coming with that as well. The thick spit, again, coming with the throat chakra activation as well. These are all little indicators that not only are you being affected by the energy, but that you're going through this recalibration and that your bodily function, your bodily systems are responding to the new energies, the new vibrations, the new frequencies that this new identity is trying very hard to anchor in. Because this is the version of self that we want going to bat for us in this new karmic chapter. So we all have the ability to make the best choices available to us in order to progress our future versions of self. So guys, I think that that's all that I want to share for this week. I think that's all on my list that I wanted to talk about. Of course, we're in for another tough week. There is always an opportunity if you feel like you're kind of being picked on or beat up, so to speak, please come back and kind of listen to these forecasts and scroll through the comments of the beautiful souls in this community. You are not alone. You are not crazy. You are not doing this by yourself. There is a whole community here backing you and waiting to support you in whichever way you need. But you have to open up the dialogue. You have to share. You have to be real and raw and vulnerable with your thoughts, with your emotions, with your circumstances, and trust that when you kind of wave that white flag and when you kind of open yourself up for other people to come in and support you, that you at least are open to being helped, to being supported, and to being kind of, I'm going to say, reassured that you're exactly where it is that you need to be. My main message, you're not alone. You're not cray-cray. I want to thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for showing up for me, but mostly thank you for showing up for yourself. I hope we all have a beautiful week, a beautiful transition. I hope we make the best choices and that we choose the highest identity, the highest timeline available to us when that solstice energy hits. I'm sending you nothing but love. We'll talk to you soon.